Back to native speaker. Here we're going to look at low energy adjectives that mean tired. First you'll say I'm drained, I'm exhausted, I'm done in, I'm fit to drop, I'm zonked, I'm wrecked, I'm worn out, I'm pooped, and I'm knackered. So all of these phrases and these adjectives, apart from drained and exhausted, are informal versions of very, very tired. Now, drained, exhausted are slightly more formal, and the others then are idiomatic and extreme. So, zonked, they're funny looking words, pooped, knackered. Knackered is more popular in Britain and Ireland and has an interesting history. This is a word that was used for the person who takes away dead and tired horses. So in the past, when horses were very common and were widely used, there was a man who would take away your dead or dying horse, and he would process the horse into glue and whatever they used horses for. So that man's job, he was a knacker. And if your horse was too old to keep going, or too weak, or too sick, you'd say your horse was knackered, and they would be brought away to the knacker's yard. Nowadays we also use it for an engine or a computer. If your computer is giving you trouble and it can't be fixed, you say my computer's knackered. But we also use it for ourselves when we're tired. So if you come home from the gym and you say, oh, I'm knackered. Okay, and again, it's a natural phrase, more common in Britain and Ireland, I have to say, than Canada and the US. But yeah, it would be common in Australia as well. Okay, so these are nice adjectives. They all mean very, very tired. And what we want to do next, well, we want to focus on improving this by adding some very native speaker ingredients, which are quantifiers. These are used all the time by native speakers, but not that much by students. So if you want your English to sound more natural, these are perfect. Let's look at some examples. I'm extremely drained. I'm utterly exhausted. I'm completely done in. I'm just fit to drop. I'm totally zonked. I'm really wrecked. I'm absolutely worn out. I'm fairly pooped. And I'm pretty knackered. Now, most of these here mean very, very. And these two here are slightly less intense than very. If you want to say why you're so tired, you can add this word, from. And this is a member of the because family. And even we teachers forget sometimes that from is a very powerful, popular, and common word for the because family. And it's used to explain why you're there, why you feel like this. So if you say, for example, I'm completely drained, if you took those three, and you could say I'm completely drained from training, from studying so hard, from all the work I did last weekend. Okay. Now, before we start looking at the using from, I want to talk briefly about the structure and the relationship between adjectives and their quantifiers, because it's not as simple as you might think. I've ranked these quantifiers, and they're only my opinion, okay? So this is just one guy giving his opinion about how popular each one is, but I am going to look at some very specific rules about which quantifiers can work with which adjectives, and there are very specific and strict grammar rules about that. So in 8th place over here I have very. And a lot of students are surprised. They go, isn't very popular? Well, yes, very is very popular. However, very cannot be used with certain adjectives like exhausted, wrecked, knackered, spent, zonked. It can't be used with any of those. Now, why can it not be used with these? Very is not used with extreme or idiomatic adjectives. Okay? It's not used with extreme or idiomatic or sometimes multi-word adjectives. So here, for example, fit to drop. It's both extreme and it's multi-word, so you wouldn't use very. You can say I'm very drained and you can say I'm very tired, but sometimes we see students saying I'm very exhausted. So this is a good moment now for you to pay attention to this and don't make that mistake. In 7th place we have extremely, and like its brother very, extremely means very, very, very. It cannot be used with all of these extreme, multi-word and idiomatic adjectives. Okay, you can say I'm extremely drained and you can say I'm extremely tired, but it can't be used up here. So be careful with that. In sixth place we have utterly. The only reason I've included utterly is although it is pretty popular, fairly popular amongst native speakers, it's not used that much. So I'm including it so that you recognize it. What does it mean? It means very, very, very. Is it stronger than extremely? Maybe, yeah, kind of. It's like the same as extremely, maybe a bit stronger. It depends on the person. But you can say utterly exhausted, but you can't say utterly wrecked. Now, why? Well, utterly exhausted and utterly drained, because these are rather formal style words, utterly will work. Utterly spent, well, now you see all these red X's. If I put in a red X, it's not my opinion, it's a rule, it's a grammar rule. Over here, I've said maybe someone might say utterly spent, but probably not, okay? Utterly drained, yes, that's why I've written utterly here. You can say utterly drained, but you cannot say utterly tired. So you see there is a kind of complexity here in the relationships. You can't just use these quantifiers willy-nilly. You can't use them without thinking about it. There is an organizational structure, there are rules. In fifth place we have just, and just is the first of all of these quantifiers that can be used with all of them. Okay? Now, why is it in fifth place? Well, just has two uses. It can mean to explain. So, for example, why didn't you come to the party last night? I was just wrecked, that's all. Here, I'm telling you that there's no big fancy, complicated story. I was very, very tired. That's the reason. I was just wrecked. So you're saying, this is nothing complicated. I'm giving you the basic, simple answer. It's also used to emphasize. So, for example, why didn't you come to the party last night? Oh, I was just exhausted. And it'll be spoken with an intense intonation. Oh, I was just exhausted. And there you see, just is used to emphasize. So it can be used to explain, like up here, or it can be used to emphasize, like in down here. In fourth place we have completely, quite popular, but it can't be used with multi-word idioms or idiomatic expressions like and adjectives, and it can be used though with some of the extreme ones. So I'm completely exhausted, I'm completely wrecked, I'm completely knackered. So even though it's formal or informal and it's extreme, it can be used, but we don't tend to use it with adjectives that have more than one word in them. And we do not say completely tired. So be careful about that. You as students might think, why not? Sure, I can say completely and tired. No, don't do that. In third place we have totally, and like completely, I'm saying that it'll work with most of the others, but it won't work with the multi-word ones. Now, here I've said I'm not as strong in this opinion. Possibly you could go on to Google. Of course, you can find anything on Google, and you might find that that's used. But I'm saying, no, not really. This means no, not really. This means absolutely not. So this is totally. You can say totally drained, but you cannot say totally tired. Do not say that. That is a complete mistake. So don't say that. In second place, I've got really, and really is your friend. It's always correct. It will never get you into trouble, and it will always be good. So you can be really exhausted, you can be really tired, you can be really bushed, you can be really wrecked, you can be really zonked, and it'll always be good. So what's in first place? Well, it's absolutely. I'm absolutely exhausted, I'm absolutely wrecked, but look at this. You cannot say I'm absolutely tired. That's a mistake. Many students would say to me, wait a second, why did absolutely get in first place? Well, that was just my opinion. Basically, I think absolutely, the reason I think this is I think we like the rhythm of this when we're emphasizing something. It sounds like a little song coming out of our mouths. So I'm absolutely exhausted. It sounds like it's really good for emphasizing, whereas really is a little shorter. So that's my reason for putting it into first place, and that's my reason for stating that I think it's more popular with native speakers, but I have to admit that's only my opinion. So there you have a nice table showing you the quantifiers. Let's look at how we build the sentences now. So here I've got a subject, I'm, you're, he's, she's. Because we're dealing with adjectives, it should of course be the verb be. So I've included all of that in here, the verb and the subject together, and I've contracted them all. You'll notice here I haven't said I am, you are. I haven't given a separate column for the verb be. Why did I do that? Well, these energy adjectives and the quantifiers that they're working with them are mostly conversational. They're mostly informal. Now, we did say exhausted and drained could be used in a formal context, but they're universal. My point here is that when you're having a conversation, use the contracted form like I'm, you're, I've, he's, I'll, you'll. They sound more natural. If you use the formal versions like I am, you are, he is in conversation, we sometimes do that when we're angry or we're being unfriendly towards somebody, and that's something that students do, and it makes your English sound a little less friendly. So if you want to make your English sound natural, more diplomatic, friendlier, more open, warmer, use the subject with the contraction. Here are our quantifiers. So is being included as well here. He's so tired. It means very, very, very. And down here you'll notice I've put in dead. So he's dead tired or bone tired. Now out of these two new ones that I've included, bone tired is not quite as popular. Dead tired is more popular. Dead is used with a lot of other words sometimes. It can't be used with any of the other energy adjectives. Like you can't say I'm dead exhausted, I'm dead wrecked, I'm dead pooped. You couldn't say that. But people do use it when they're talking about other things like you're dead right, for example. Or he's dead nice, or she's dead cool, or she's dead gorgeous, or she's dead beautiful, or she's dead pretty, or he's dead handsome. Sometimes people do use that. It's very informal, it's almost slang, and I have to say it is used by a certain age group. So you'd associate it with, we'd say, the teenager, 20-something age group. If you're getting older, it might not be as useful. But people often say you're dead right. And when people say you're very right, you're very correct, you're exact, I agree with you, they'd often say you're dead right. Okay, it's a strong agreement. Now, let's keep going. We want to say why you're absolutely wrecked, why you're really exhausted. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to go up here and we're going to use from as a because link. We're going to use from as a because link here, and it's fantastic. And it's a great time to just remind ourselves how popular from is as a member of the because family. The devil being in the detail, well, if you use a verb after from here, it must be verb ing. So let's say you have a verb phrase with one or two words, and there's a verb from plus verb ing, verb ing. If you don't want to use a verb, that's okay. Just leave it empty. No problem. But if you use a verb, it must be ing. And then to finish out the sentence, you might have an adjective phrase there, an object here, and a complement here. Let's build the sentences now and see what they sound like. So, I'm absolutely wrecked from staying up so late at night recently. You're really exhausted from looking after the kids all weekend. He's so tired from working in the garden yesterday. She's totally pooped from so much excitement. It's completely spent from printing all the documents for the meeting. We're just done in from all the fun and games at the party. You're very tired from attending so many meetings this week, and they're dead tired or bone tired from walking all around the shops. So there you can see some nice sentences, well constructed, that you could put together yourself, and you can avoid the common mistakes. Over here, for example, we used it's, so we're talking mostly about energy, etc. Well, spent can be used for inanimate objects, and for example, what could be spent? Well, money we know can be spent when it's all gone. There's none left. When batteries lose their power, you could say my battery is spent. Okay, possibly. I'm not saying it's the most popular. The cartridge in your printer, for example, when your printer needs more ink, you go to the shop and buy a little plastic cartridge. Well, you could say it's completely spent. I just wanted to include non-living pronouns here as well, so that it could be used for a machine. But I was just trying to put that in to add a little bit of extra information for you. Okay, so these are really nice sentences. Pay attention to this little detail and what I said earlier about the relationships between the quantifiers and adjectives. Do look at that table again. So that's some low energy language. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to join us for more lessons online. That's all from me. The very best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.